I want to spend a little time kind of going over this rendering that I've been working with. This is a SketchUp drawing program. They have actually a program that I think you can get for free that you can try it out and stuff. That's kind of how I started, but this is a program that I use for some of my own work. And I use it for a lot of my other projects. Basically now I don't build anything without it. It just kind of helps me build it to scale, and this is kind of a hodgepodge of parameters that I've put together here. Some of it's representative. That's the primary thing here, is it's not specifically to scale. This is not the drawings that I built the boat from. These are just kind of taking some measurements from how the boat laid out, and just trying to look forward and envision some stuff here, like this console. This is kind of my current console design, and these are just shapes that I put in here to be able to lay it out. Like this will be obviously the throttle and shifter assembly. This will be the trim tabs. This would be the ignition switch. This could be the jack plate. Another one could be a power pole control. This is obviously the exact dimensions of the layout of the screen for the MFD. And the two Yamaha gauges, or assumingly Yamaha gauges, that I will have here as well. This is, once again, this is all just kind of by design, or so that I can envision it. This gives you a little top view here, a little button there gives me a quick top view. This one kind of gives you a quick side view. That one gives me a quick top view. You kind of run through here pretty fast. Like this is a trolling motor pad that'll actually be on the deck. I hope to put a quick connect trolling motor pad here, and also this shows me the area that I'll have backing plates. These are all little tags. So let's take, for example, this motor. If I want to see it, I turn it on, or if I don't want to see it, I turn it off, but I'm gonna leave it on for right now. I have my backing plates, so I'll have a backing plate here. You can see I have a cleat here. I plan on having a little backing plate there where the fuel fill is. There's backing plates in the rear back here. There are backing plates underneath. These are estimated mounting holes for the polling platform. So I've gone ahead and I've laid out all of my backing plates where they are, my batteries. And we'll kind of go into that here in a second, but it just kind of gives you an idea. I'm able to do some layout and stuff. I got a backing plate here, thinking about putting a seat pedestal up front, just because maybe a time where me or my wife or whatever, we got to have some multi-use with this thing. So I'm just thinking about doing that. Let me take this top deck off, and you can see where I have that chair plate is as close as I can get it to that transverse bulkhead. So now that I've kind of taken the top off of here, you can see this is my fuel tank where I'm estimating it will be. You can see the sole of the boat, which is basically the floor. You see the partitions, these black tubes here. They are wiring chases, so I'm thinking about putting in a wire chase all the way from one end of the boat to the other along the top there. And I say a wire chase, that would be like a 1-inch piece or a 1/2 inch conduit or something like that, or maybe have something bedded up in where that deck and the side of the boat joints, be able to put it up in there and have it fixed, as opposed to using like screws with wire hangers or something like that, zip ties or whatnot. Once again, this is the forward bulkhead, so this gives you an idea of what the cockpit will look like, how much room in the cockpit and whatnot. One of the things I'm considering, let me turn this top deck back on. You can see I turned the top deck back on. One of the things I'm considering here is that my current console design is I'm about 2 inches taller on this forward seat. So the sides of the boat from the top to the deck, I believe, are 14 inches. I think that's the measurement there. It's approximately that. So this is about 16 inches, just because 14 is pretty low to just set on, and there'll be a cushion pad on top of that. 18's pretty good. Somebody tall like me, that's a little bit short. But what I don't like is I don't particularly like the fact that it sits proud. of the sides of the boat. I don't know why. It's just something I'm trying to think through it. And also, you know, this is this purple square here. This is like a seat pad. This would be a foam pad, and there, you know, there will also be a foam pad on here. But I'm also, as I'm contemplating this console, let me turn on my dude over here. And so this is my dude, and this is, you know, I've got basically a line that's running parallel, so that I made sure that my console, that I had proper line of sight, so I can still see pretty good, you know, with everything there. This is just a guide that, you know, part of this program is you can go to their 3D warehouse, and that gives you a bunch of different things, and you can just put in here like a sitting man. And so then you do a search for that. You're looking for a model, and then here it is, are all these different sitting men. You know, let's see if we can find our dude. There he is, right there. I could have used that one, but it's a little different. But you know, you want a 3D situation. So you can just take Mr. Office Man here, and we'll put him right on into the model. All that should go away, and so we could just put him right there. And so let's see. Oh, we got two guys. So then you can actually rotate around him. So this is what you would call a two-dimensional guy, and this is a three-dimensional guy. So it's just part of what we can do here. We can open that up. We can get rid of this dude. Now we only have one guy. And then we could grab him by the bottom of his butt and put him over here and let him sit on the side. It's a very intuitive program. It starts off, you can actually get it for free, the SketchUp program. I think it's a Google product, but it just gives you an idea of you know, some of the tools and all that I use. If I don't want him, I just get rid of him. But back to what I was saying about the console, is I'm trying to you know, get an idea for how much space between here. You know, if anybody's got any real world experience on what the spacing is from this console to this back deck, you know, I'm thinking that needs to be at least 16, 18 inches to kind of walk or, you know, scoot through there. But, you know, you don't want it so far out that it's uncomfortable to sit at, but you don't want it so close that you can't maneuver in there either. So that's just part of some of the stuff I'm looking at. Let me go back to this top view and get rid of the dude. You know, let's get rid of these backing plates. Once you kind of understand, we went through that. Let's get rid of this top deck again. It kind of gives you an idea a little bit more. So if we go up underneath here, you can see these are the stringers here, like here, all of these stringers that go from the front of the boat to the back. Like, that's a good representation of that center stringer that runs down the middle. Obviously the bottom of the boat's not entirely perfect. And then these bulkheads, these transverse bulkheads here, that's pretty good representation of their exact location. Their height, their width, their side, the angle. So it's given me a pretty good idea, which has helped me as we look through the bottom of the boat. This is where my chases and all will be. So these, you know, we'll look at these back from the top again right here. Let's get rid of this motor, because we kind of got an idea. Like, this is an area that I really don't have super accurate, this transom of the boat, but you kind of get an idea. Once again, the bilge area, I've built it out specifically so that I know how much room, and I'm able to space some stuff in here. Let me show you. Let me turn these hatches off. I don't know if I talked about these hatches before. I'm gonna come back to those hatches, but for example, I want to know, and I want to be able to look in here so you can see these are 2.5 inch chases that come. Let's get rid of the sole. Chases, these two orange ones right here. These are actually the engine. I'm running these. These will be 2.5 inches, I believe. Chases, one for the steering and then one for the throttle control and all that. So we'll have 2 of those coming from the console back to this side of the motor, and then they'll come out of this angled piece right here, or they'll come out the top of this deck. I hadn't quite decided on that yet. I really need to get that installed and all and see how that works out, but I'm thinking I'm gonna come out of this little sloped side piece here. But with those chases and all, it gives me an idea. This just kind of gives me an idea how it lays out, where I need to space things, how they work. Once again, if we go back up underneath here, you know, you can see how I have them coming up underneath the console. The gray is basically all conduit. I left it gray so it would be like conduit. So I'm gonna have, I'm gonna have a 1 inch or a 2 inch wire coming from the back. I think that's gonna be 2 inch, at least 2 inch. I'm trying to oversize everything just so that I always have plenty of room. These blue lines are kind of the drains. This purple line here, these are drains. These are actually going to be where the deck drains are. There's just so much of this. I'm sure it's hard to see. I'm going to try and walk through some of it, and then we'll do a little question and answer. If anybody has any questions, just post them up, and maybe I'll come back and part of the future videos I can answer those questions as we go. Once again, there'll be a live well in the front of this console, a live well or an ice chest or an insulated box to be able to be used as an ice chest or a drink box. This main rear live well will also be insulated and be capable of being used as an ice chest, and this live release well can be used. It'll be insulated and also plumbed. All three of these will be plumbed for raw water supply. They'll all have aerator pumps on them. That's these little purple and green alien looking things here. I'm not entirely sure on the location. This gives you an idea. What am I trying to contemplate here is how do I access that once we put this deck and all on there. And I'm thinking I'm gonna have an access hatch out the, once you open this compartment here. Let me see if I can put the top deck on. Well, and we're gonna get rid of that hardware and let's go back to the hatches. So this will be a hatch here. So for example, this hatch here, this kind of give you an idea of what's possible here. So if once my plan is to open this hatch this way, okay, see, you move that, so I'll be able to reach into here, reach in from the front here, get into that hatch, and now let's go back to where we were looking at that, and have an inspection plate. Let's dive on in here, get rid of that hatch right there, and I'm gonna have an inspection plate right here that I can open and access the valves for the live release well, and if I need to do any maintenance on this aerator pump right here. So that'll be my access to be able to get in there. It won't be perfect, but the only other access place will be through the back or through the top, and I don't want either one of those. And it doesn't really work in the back because of this angle piece and all the stuff going on back there. So that's my plan, is to have maybe that is I think that's a 6-inch access hatch, and because I kind of have this thing to scale, I can pull a line right there, and if you look over here you can see that's 8 and 11/16. So I should be able to put a 6-inch hatch right there, or if I have to, I'll build a custom door right there where I can open that door, access these pumps and all that stuff. So that's part of what I'm looking at. So that all of the live wells, ice chests, whatever, they'll have aerator pumps, and they'll also be able to provide water, get water from these 2 raw water pumps here that'll go through hull seacocks. The pump in the middle here, which probably won't be in the middle, it'll be off to one side or the other, will be the bilge pump, and obviously let's just say it'll route out this way and go out the side of the boat. The yellow lines right here, which are kind of hard to see. Let me see. I don't know what that is that's turned on there. I think that's probably the deck. Yeah, okay. So in here you can see this is representative of the bilge pump, but remember, because of this center stringer, we had to cut the plug off to the side, and maybe I'll show a picture of that right here. When we cut that and did all that with the thickened epoxy. But so the bilge pump is going to set off to one side or the other. But this is where I will have these yellow lines here, will be where these pumps hook up, and they'll actually be the supply lines for the water. So you can see the water for this live, one of those lines will go to over here to this live release well and to that forward live well. Now, because I've been having power cut out, I don't know if I discussed this, so I'll do it again. I'll have one of these pumps that'll provide water just for this live well, and then the other pump will provide water, and I'll have a valve system through that access hatch we just talked about. I'll have a valve there to where I can pump water to this forward live well on the front of this console, or I can pump raw water into here and use this as a live release well, which I like to do sometimes, you know, to just keep the fish alive so we're not burning ice. So I'll just have a valve in here, and then I'll have a valve in the console if I need to isolate one or the other. But one will run this pump strictly, and I may one day come back and, you know, try and put in a off of that Seacock and put a raw water washdown pump. It's just, you know, no more than we do. Having a bucket and a brush would probably take care of most of our needs there. So back to this, you know, that's kind of gives you an idea what the water pump, where the pumps are, the you know, the live well pumps. Also, you can see these two boxes right here. These are batteries. I don't know if I talked about this before, but I'm considering having 4 batteries. I know, it's a lot, I know. But follow me here. With all of these pumps and all that I have, you know, that's a lot for one battery, and it be your cranking battery. So my plan, at least in consideration, is, you know, if I've got this well over here, I put a battery over here. But I also have the option to put another battery here, to have one battery as kind of your house battery, your pumps, and run all that stuff, your lights, everything else, and then have one dedicated cranking battery. So I know it's a little more weight, you know, and it, depending on if I go lithium or not, it couldn't be that much more weight, but it is money. So there's all these trade-offs. So all I'm doing here is considering it. And what you can't see here, let's turn off the console, is I'm also planning on having 2 batteries under the console, and that will be 24-volt batteries that will be provided for the trolling motor to the front. So also these gray conduits you see going forward here, this would be where I'd run the wires to come up in here for that for the trolling motor, and then we'll just have a plug. I'm bringing it up on this side because I'll have a plug that will go in right here some way. I will probably, with also the lights and all, because they're all LED, they're going to be real small wire stuff. So I'm probably going to just run them all through the through these edges here. And if I have to, come to the back, and then I can run it all the way to the front. One thing I don't know that I also talked about, let's turn our console back on. That's the labels, the console back on. Let's put our top deck back on and our hatches back on, just so we can get an idea of what we're talking about here. We don't really need that, but I'm able to also start planning for my lights. So these pink are actually, they'll be, I'll have one set of lights. So this forward hatch, the second hatch up front, the main kind of the engineering house where your fuel line and all that. I may put this battery that I had back here, I may put it right there, but kind of have all that running through there. That's where the power pole hydraulic system will probably go in. But that'll be kind of where all of your electrical stuff goes in. But for all of those hatches, for every hatch, I'm going to have a light, so that they'll all, you know, hatch lights will be turn on, and all, whenever you open a hatch at dark, even back here in the back, you can see I got one here, one for the bilge area, one for this side. One switch will turn on lights underneath the deck. So anytime you open a hatch in the dark or something, you'll have some light. You see these little green lights here. There's also one up here with this console. Those will actually be live well lights that'll be wired to the nav light switch. So anytime you have your nav lights on, basically you'll have a lit live well. So when you open that up, it'll obviously be lit. There'll be lights inside this hatch here, and you know, with LED lights, you don't need much wire, and you can buy, I don't know, I think I bought 15 of these things, or a pack of 15, and they're not super expensive, you know. So, and they'll be accessible, so if they go out, we just swap them out. But I know it's a lot of lights, but that's what I want to have. Those will all be white lights, and I'll also have white lights here on the cockpit, 2 on each side. There'll also be 2 lights inside the console, which I've changed in the position of this console, but this light will actually be on the top of the, inside the top of here, and there'll also be another one maybe back here on the back side, so that if I need to do anything inside that console in the dark, I'll have some light. There'll also be some red lights here for the cockpit. So at nighttime, if you need to light that up and you're running or something, that you know, white light won't get into your eyes or anything. So turn this trolling motor pad off. We're going to kind of clean up our thing here a little bit. So those are all the lights. Also helps me to lay them out. So I also have a wiring diagram that I've laid out for all this that I'll color code with all of the colors of the wires that I want. Plan is to have basically a different color combination for every wire, so no matter where you encounter that in the boat, I'll have a chart, and I'll know, okay, well, that's what this is, and I plan to be really methodical about how to approach that part. And then we'll have bus bars and battery switches and all that fun stuff. I've talked about here, let's talk about this console, and we talked about this, obviously this is steering wheel, the MFD and all that. I'm able to scale this in here. This will be the switch panel, and it's big. I think it's a 12 switch panel. So I'm gonna have at least 9 switches that I know of, that just because of all of the systems and all that I'm gonna have on here and how I'm gonna have them configured. Some of those switches will be double switches, like the live well. The live well is going to have a raw water pump to use water from overboard, and it'll also have an aerator pump. So you can buy the switches with that on one switch. So every live well will have that as a function for an aerator and all that. Once again, we have cockpit lights, which will be these lights, will be cockpit red or cockpit white. So that'll be a double switch probably. The hatch lights, the nav lights, I've got it all wired out, and maybe I'll show that at some point as well. But I'm able to walk through that and actually do the wiring diagram to account for all that. Wiring diagram I was talking about, this is just something I put together in Excel. This shows me where I've tried to account for all of the different components that'll need wires running to them. You can see the trolling motor, the forward anchor locker, hatch light. It also enabled me to start putting names and stuff to things so that I can be consistent. So these are all of the components, and then these are all the switches. These are kind of give you an idea. I showed you, maybe even show it here, but I'm gonna have one switch will be a nav light, anchor light, that'll be a double switch, one bilge pump, one hatch light, the gunnel lights or the cockpit lights, which that'll be red and white. One switch will be red, one switch will be white, so that'll be a double switch. The main live well, fill and then aerate. The forward live well, fill, aerate, and then just a recirculating pump for the live release well kind of component. Then underwater lights, then a horn. So if you go through here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I went with a 10 switch panel, and I'd only give me one extra one, so I don't know what may be coming down the road that I may need, so I'm going to go with a 12 switch panel where, so I may have 3 extra switches that are just sitting there idle, but that's the reason I'm going to do it that way. But this gives you an idea of how I just kind of laid out all of the things that I'm going to need. Like in the back, you're going to have a port trim tab and a starboard trim tab, so those wires will be coming, the jack plate, the bilge pump. I don't even have the main motor wiring harness in here, but a hatch light for the bilge, a hatch light for the port transom hatch, a hatch light over here, power pole, like all of the different stuff. The little mechanical hatch, I think I've called it engineering or electrical, whatever, but it's like a mechanical hatch which will be that starboard rear hatch, the hatch, that's going to be the seat, just kind of gives you an idea of how I tried to put everything in here. Like these are the little live well lights that'll come on with the nav switch, and I'm able to color code everything that'll come on with that. One thing I didn't talk about is potentially having a compass in the top of the console, but this is how I've kind of tried to lay out, and then eventually I will come in here and lay out all my wire colors, what's going to be running where, so that I know I can put that up to the switch panel when I get ready to wire all that up. So that's what this is a little wiring diagram that I tried to put together to start envisioning that and getting organized to handle it. That's one part. These hatches I think I talked about. So these are basically my estimates of hatches. These yellow ones, you can see here, they're all the same size. So my plan, at least in considering this, is that if I was to decide to try and build a mold for these hatches, which I've considered doing just to do it, and document the process as I go, I can have all 4 of these hatches be the same. So in the interest of duplicity, it would just make it better. Once I got one mold, then I could just do it 4 times, and I'd have the mold for the the hatches, and they'd all be the same. Same thing with these rear hatches. With 2 of them the same, the more that I can use the same configuration, the better it would be. I don't have to build one mold. So I'm still not sold on that concept yet, but it also, if I make templates and all for cutting these holes, I could reuse the templates to run with a router. There's just a lot of things like that that I'm considering as I move forward, and I have too much time to think about it. Let's take this top deck off here. We'll go back to the front. This will be the approximate location of the fuel tank. These are the actual dimensions of the fuel tank. I'm worried that I don't have enough vertical height here, so I'm looking at that, and I may actually have to come in here and notch these stringers a little bit to lower this down enough to where it'll fit. I hope I don't have to do that, but that's what I'm considering. Let's see. Once again, I plan on making this, let's see, what do I want here? The deck. Once again, this is just representative. I hope to make this an anchor locker right up here to where this will open up. We'll also have the trolling motor wire and all that, and I'm going to put the plug on this bulkhead here so you can just plug it up. All that stuff will be basically not exposed to the sun or the weather or anything like that. It'll be underneath a dry hatch, as dry as I can make it. I may actually put a temporary bulkhead wall right here so that when this hatch, for using this hatch, it'll kind of have an isolated area and not be exposed to this fuel tank and all that. It won't be permanent, but maybe something that I can fit in there and kind of have a cleat or something that it screws to. I'm considering that. I'm also, because of this height, I may get in a situation where, back to this top deck here, let's put this back on. I'm hoping that I can do the fuel fill from the side like this and get it in that tank, but if I get into a situation where vertical height is just, I can't make it happen, I'll put the fuel fill somewhere out here and just go straight down into the tank. So this kind of gives you an idea of what the front of the boat will look like looking astern. Once again, as I've sketched this out, these bulkheads like this orange one here, this blue one here, let's turn these hatches off. Let's get rid of that console. Those are the exact locations. So with that center stringer, it brings in some difficulties and being able to get into this console. So you can see this console is only going to be wide enough to, it's not going to hang over each side of these stringers here. Let's see if I can show it. Yeah. You can see the console is not going to be wide enough to get outside of those stringers. So as I turn that back off, you can see all of the chases, all the plumbing, everything is going to have to cross that stringer to get back in here. So I'm a little perplexed and trying to think about how to do that. One of the things I'm looking at is just taking a 90 and rolling it out here and catching it on an angle like this. So that's kind of what I've tried to represent with this. This is not precise because I'm just trying to get an idea of where it needs to go. But I do know that I'm going to have to be right after that bulkhead that goes across right there. Once again, these are my lights. Let's turn those lights off. Those are the lights up underneath there. These will be the batteries for the trolling motor. We can turn that off, but I've kind of tried to model everything in here so I can see where it's at. I can kind of just go through and have a mental picture as to how everything's going to work. The plumbing and all up underneath here, you can see it's pretty involved. There's going to be quite a bit of stuff. There's my plan for draining. All right, let's go through that a little bit. So this forward compartment up here, I'm sorry if I got y'all getting seasick. I apologize. So this forward compartment, once again, we'll put the sole back on. You'll see that drain will be right there, somewhere right in here, to drain this anchor locker compartment. So my options are I can come out the side of here and just make a drain through the hull side and then put a clamshell pointed aft, which a lot of builders do that. But I figure since I already have a drain going down through the bottom of here, why can't I just extend that up through here and catch it? Because I want to have the ability, you see that's what these blue marks are here, to be able to drain this storage compartment. So if water gets in there, or if I need to get in there and wash it out, I can get in there and wash it and it'll be able to go through a drain. I've actually got the drains for that already. So in considering that, now we're going to go back kind of below the boat. You can see that I have that blue line, that drain coming here. It collects those 2 drains from the side. Now this will be an 1.5-inch drain. It'll also collect the drain from the forward live well. That's what this is. This is here. Let's get rid of the sole. So this will be the drain, the drain plug out the bottom of the forward live well. And then also the overflow drain if I decide to build it as such that when the raw water's coming in, it'll just fill up and overflow into this drain. And so that drain through that 1.5-inch line will come all the way to the back. And once again, we got to get outside of this stringer, which will probably angle all that and not have it 90 like this, but it's just easier to draw like that. So we'll have this come back and angle back to get outside this stringer, and it'll come back and collect also the drain for this rear live release well. So that's all that one drain goes into. So with that in mind, there's only one pump, so one of these pumps is going to be pumping water to that forward live well and this live well. So that's going to be a one pump through a, I believe it at most it's a 3/4-inch line, and we'll have an 1.5-inch drain. So that should be plenty of drain for, twice as much drain as you have fill. Now granted, pressure and all that, but that should be more than enough drain. And that drain is going to come back here and it'll exit out one of these ports. Actually, there's only 2 ports on one side here and another one on this side, and these will be through hulls, and I'll probably show you a picture of the back of the boat right here so you can see that's where these through hulls will come through, and all they'll be is drains, gravity drains. This lighter blue line here will be the gravity drain for that rear live well. It'll have its own drain, dedicated drain. And then we'll have one of these that comes over here. I think it's maybe this purple one, which will be the main cockpit floor drains. They'll drain. They will be the only other thing through that 1.5-inch line. They'll have a dedicated 1.5-inch line that they'll drain out of. So that should be more than enough. If for some reason that cockpit gets flooded, an 1.5-inch, a solid 1.5-inch line is going to be about all I could think I would need. So just a little tour here. Looking at all the stuff that I'm considering, because we're getting ready to flip this boat back over. With this console, that being the next project, I'm able to take this thing and build it. One of the neat parts is using some of the tricks in drawing this is if I can take this thing and I can make a copy of it just that quick, and then I can come out here and do stuff with this one. So if I wanted to move this over, you can see it moves both of them. This is now considered a model, so it's identical to this one. So anything you do to this one, it does to that one. I'm able to manipulate it out here in this space, and then whatever happens in there happens. And then when you get done, you just take this and you get rid of it. So you still have the original. But what I'm able to do here is once I get this console kind of exactly like I want it, I'm able to take these panels, take this thing apart. I can pull this panel here out. I'm going to have, one of those with it being a little bit angled, you can see there. And I can start laying this out and doing a nesting pattern on my wood or whatever, so that I can properly lay it out to use the least amount of wood as possible. So this will be all 1/2-inch marine ply. I'm sure I can get away with foam. I've seen other people do it with foam. I know it's possible. I'm going to go with the extra rigidity. Once again, I'm a pretty big fella. I want this thing to last. I've got the wood. It's going to be 1/2-inch marine plywood, fiberglassed over from there. And that should only allow me, I may put 1708 on it just because I'm going to have that. I may just put 10-ounce cloth over the outside of it, fair it, and be done with it. But that should be all that I need. Once again, there'll be a hatch here on the front of it to open up for the live well, and also probably do a door here or a hatch to be able to access the back of all the electronics. And then we'll have a door down here as well. I don't know if I'm going to get a pre-manufactured one or if I'm going to make one myself. These things are really, making that type of stuff is really in my wheelhouse as far as my ability to construct stuff. So It's kind of an idea. I just wanted to go through this a little bit. If anybody's got any questions, or if maybe you wanted to take this on, it took me a little while at first. Before, when I first had the plans, I was able to actually scale some of this directly from the plans. Plans don't give you dimensions, but just getting an idea. For me to just sit around and look at this stuff, and there's so many different components you have to consider, and the more you consider them now, the better off you're going to be able to plan going forward, and enable yourself. This is it's kind of a tricked out deal. I know the boat doesn't need all this to be a skiff and to go fish and have fun. And if I wasn't making it so hard on myself, I'd probably be done by now. But this is the way I'm going to do it. I like the ability to flip a switch and have good live well, and have the ability to stop and get live shrimp on the side of the road, and have an aerator pump, all that self-contained, so I don't have to carry around a separate bait well or something like that. I don't know. I have so many different opportunities to go different places and do stuff. I don't know exactly what environment I'm going to be in, so I want to have all the flexibility that I can ever have. So that's why I'm doing it like this. And I like the lights, and I didn't cover underwater lights, but there's probably going to be underwater lights, and God, who knows what else. My plan is to have a power pole one day here on the back, and also have an Armstrong type ladder or some kind of ladder here on the side, because who knows, this boat may wind up in the Keys, and we go lobstering off of it or something, diving. Who knows? So I just wanted to go through and show you this little representation, and kind of just a tool that I use to figure out stuff, and kind of give you an idea. Be able to able to put labels on everything. I've shown these in the past. The seat pedestal, so all the hatches will be gasketed, and hopefully they'll be as dry as possible. This is also where I kind of did my little rolling cradle, to be able to figure out how to roll the boat. And when I rolled it, I'll show you a video of that here. You can see how I made these little angled sections so that the boat would stop, and I'd be able to do it all on my own. So this is the program that I did all that from. So hopefully this kind of been interesting for somebody and informative. And I'll tell you, the SketchUp program, I don't have any formal training with electronic drawing or anything like this. I'm totally self-taught. SketchUp does a really good job of their little tutorials and stuff like that. And if you just go and you follow along, and you'll start drawing chairs and houses and all kind of stuff, it's very intuitive. If you go to their YouTube, you can do training sessions, and honestly, that's what I did to kind of get the basics, and then I just kind of took off on my own. And it is extremely helpful for me. I have all kind of projects. Replace the fencing in my backyard. I was able to model it out and know exactly how much lumber I needed and whatnot. So let's see. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to go through. But this is SketchUp. This is pretty neat little tool here. So I hope this has been informative.